Okay, let's go ahead and get started with our first ZIO Streams example. And you can see from the first 3 lines that I'm using Scala 3, specifically Scala 3.3. And then I have the ZIO library as the dependency here, and then the ZIO Streams library as another dependency. So that's all you need to run this example and many of the other examples we're about to run. The imports are just importing everything from the ZIO package and the ZIO Stream package right there. And then as you can see here, the purpose of this example is to show a first ZStream example, starting with a Scala list as the input. So we're going to have a list right here. So our application begins just like any other ZIO application. We have an object, some name, extend ZIO app default. Then the first thing I'm doing here is I just create a Scala list. And you can see it just says hello ZIO Streams as the 3 strings inside that list. So this is just a simple list of string, as you see right there. Then the second thing I do is I create a ZStream from the list, as you see from the comment right there. And the way we do this is we call the fromIterable method on ZStream and then pass in that list right there. And that creates this ZStream value that you see right here. So you can see ZStream looks similar to ZIO, and it has the 3 parameter types here. We have any, so any old environment will do. Nothing means it cannot fail, and string is what the stream will contain, and that's because, of course, we're creating this from a list of strings right here in this line up here. And then when we come back here, again, I created this one with this fromIterable method right here, but we could also do this differently. I could have created the ZStream directly like that. We could do that, and if you bear with me just a moment, I'll be right back. Here on the ZIO website, you can see the URL up here, and specifically I'm under streaming ZStream and then creating ZIO Streams, and they have a really nice page here of common constructors that you could use. So again, I could have used this apply method right here, the ZStream of 1, 2, 3. Other ones you could use would be to create a single unit value like that, a stream that produces no values or fails with an error, a schedule, and I believe we're going to look at a schedule in a little while. You can also iterate to create a stream. You can create a stream from a range. That's another thing it could have done there. And then we have service, scoped, and you'll see other methods as we go along. So here's a fail, succeed. You can create streams from chunks. You can create streams from ZIO values, from ZIO option, and more. So come check out this page to see the other options you can use. And again, you can see that's under creating ZIO Streams, and you get an idea from this list of headers over here, all the different ways you can create streams. So you can create streams from Java IO, Java Streams, all these other options that are over here. So I'm not going to go through all of those, but we're going to see several of the most popular ones in the videos in this series. So getting back to the code here, we now have this stream. And you can see that type again, of course, is ZStream, any, nothing, and string right there. So now we are working with a stream, and that's the most important thing to know. And in fact, that's so important. One thing I like to do is get rid of this code so you don't have to worry about where that code came from. And in fact, I'd really like to get that code off the screen so we don't even have to see it. Because at this point, I just want you thinking, oh, okay, I have a stream that came from somewhere. And now I just want to process this stream. So it doesn't matter where the stream came from. You just need to know, okay, I have a ZStream. It has this type, any, nothing, and string. So when I'm working on the stream processing, I'm going to be working with these string values right here. So typically what you do when you're working on a stream is you have transformation processes or pipelines, and you're going to be working on the stream. So here I just have one, and I'm saying, oh, I just want to take whatever elements are in that stream, and I want to call a usual map method just to transform those strings to uppercase. So as every string comes through the stream, I want to map it to make it an uppercase string. And then I want to call for each. And then I just want to print that line. And again, this happens as the stream is going along right here. And just a quick note here, if you don't remember why I'm using or die, that's because console.println will make this an IO exception instead of a nothing. And then what or die does, it says, well, that can't really fail. So it transforms the type to nothing. And then if for some reason println actually does fail, as I mentioned before, there's going to be something really wrong with your computer. And I thought this might be a good time to review or die because I'm about to use it quite a bit. This example from my website is similar to the one that we were looking at. And it has or die at the end of the println method. You can't really see all of that, but it has or die. So then the possible error type here is nothing. And then the 4 line items below explain the way or die works. So first, it takes a ZIO effect that can fail with some error type. Second, it returns a new ZIO effect that can't fail, has nothing as its error type. Third, if the original effect succeeds or die passes through the success value. And then fourth, if the original effect fails or die converts the failure into a defect, which typically results in crashing your program. And then if you look at the last paragraph, a ZIO failure is an exception that you expect and you want to handle, like handling an I/O exception, while a defect is something you can't control, such as being able to print the standard out or running out of memory. And a defect will generally cause your application to crash and terminate. So in the end, I use this or die call here just to change that I/O exception into a nothing, because I really don't care if this throws an exception, because as I said, there's going to be something really wrong with your computer, and I prefer to see nothing here, and then of course we have nothing right here. And this becomes really important in larger applications. So I just wanted to mention that before we get into next examples and larger applications. And then finally, the last thing we do here, of course, is run our code. So we create the usual ZIO run value right here. And all we have to do here is just say, well, I just want to run that process stream value right there, because process stream is doing the mapping and the for eaching. I should mention also that for each in this example works like a sync. In our subsequent examples, I'll be more explicit about using a sync value. But right here, this serves as a sync value because we are taking each line and bringing it to the console. So that serves as a sync. And again, I just want to reiterate, when you're working here, just think of this as a stream. Don't worry about where it came from. Just think of it as a stream right there. And now we can take that and put that over there. This file is called 100 process list. So I will say Scala CLI 100 process list and go ahead and run that. And except for the fact that ZIO just updated to 2.116 last night, you will see the desired output right here. So we have hello ZIO Streams, and those are all capitalized. These are the 3 strings we had up here, hello ZIO Streams. And you can see that they came through the map process. They were uppercased, and then they were printed to the console right here, and then our application comes to an end. And one thing I want to add here is that the for each method effectively works like a sync. Even though you haven't seen a sync in code yet, for each is like a sync that consumes all elements from the streams, and in this case performs some side effect for each element, printing, and terminates with a single result, unit. So again, just a note that for each works as a sync in this example. So again, this was just a little example to get us started, and I'll put the code back together just a little bit so we could see it all in one place. So this was the first example of creating a ZIO stream or a ZStream value. We did it by starting with a Scala list and then converting that list into a ZStream using ZStream.fromIterable in this case. And as I mentioned in this comment here on this line right here, I could have also created the ZStream directly like this instead of using fromIterable. So these are a couple of different ways you could start to work with a list or list-like data as a ZIO stream.